I'm so glad we arrived at this point and we can kind of grow the ecosystem together and maybe help our audience a little bit with some actionable advice. Grab a glass of water while you sort that out. I will go camera off just in case, but I'll be here and I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for your flexibility. Thank you so much.
Blake, you mentioned timing in your presentation. You need to be at the good timing. You need to be at the good timing. How to define this good timing? This is the main. I mean, sometimes we are disturbed because customers say, oh, it's too early. And then they say, oh, it's too late because we have already the solution or we have seen already the solution. What is the good timing for an investor, please?
Well, you know, I'm not kind of like a Bible on this. What is a good timing for an investor? It's a very important question. But the way I would approach it, I would be very careful about being in my own echo chamber, as in that I'm mostly discussing my project with like-minded people and supporters. As a result, I'm developing like a super optimistic view, whereas what I think would tell you more about the timing is, first of all, looking at clients and actually the movement on the supply side, on the demand side rather than the supply side. And then I would look at much broader trends of adoption and understand if the topic of the opportunity you're tackling is actually part of a wider conversation already. I can think of an example of a team that I cannot name, but they were solving a very difficult problem associated with movements of assets across virtual spaces. But when they started kind of getting traction, it was actually way too early for people to understand the magnitude of that problem. And as a result, it resonated maybe with me, but it only resonated with me and the insiders. It didn't resonate with the wider audience, I would say. So being aware of seeking that external perspective that is not always nice to hear. I'm not saying it should be discouraging to your project, but should dictate the timing. Additional thing that would be relevant here is that if you try to tackle many verticals at once, because it's good timing for it, that means VC investors will see you as competing with the dominant player in each one of those verticals that you included. It's not that the combination of features will suddenly make you a new type of actor. You're still competing with offering of established players on all product aspects that you're pursuing. That's why I believe early on, it's much better to be more specific and focus on less things, but do them more in depth. And as a result, then you can grow out to other services when you have a dominant position as an actor and some synergies there. But spreading yourself thin, even if the timing is right, would also be an example of a bad influence of timing and trends.
Yeah, thank you. Clear. I mean, I think you answered very well to this question.
And another thing is that, you know, startups move very quick, and that's one of their advantages. But also, again, it's another phase of another aspect of the thing we're discussing, which is timing, right? Startups can move super quick, and that's their advantage. But they also have limited resources in terms of time that, in their case, directly translates to runway and the money they have before the next fundraising event. And sometimes it's very important to remember that investors, potential enterprise clients, can have a very different pace of decision-making. And expecting them to pace their decisions like a startup can put you in a very frustrating position when, rather than respect the long sales cycles, you're kind of planning for the best case scenario, which, if you went on the other side of the table, just cannot happen that quick.
Yeah.
And then actually you overestimate your planning and suddenly you might run out of cash.
Yeah, this is also one of, I think, of the problems that this is, I mean, also the investors, you have to show them big things to excite them. And when you show big things, of course, you take a big risk by risk. Means also they need to be reasonable in the way to ask, because if you don't show big things to the investor, they are not interested. This is but I don't think that it is reasonable, because if you show big things, you are taking also more risks. Okay, means it should be a honest deal, saying this is the best that I can do, and they need to accept this. But I mean, maybe.
But I think, I understand what you mean, but also there are two ways you can show big figures in. On one hand, if you came to an investor with a full completed iteration of an earlier phase of your product that goes very deep on what is the core of your value proposition, and even though it's not yet big, it demonstrates, again, the full closed iteration of the product phase with clear scalability potential, to an investor, that's big. But if one comes with testing out different, let's say, opportunities under one structure and going super broad, but then different stages of completion at different verticals, and also to kind of, show the vision to the investor, they start saying that they will also do like avatars and digital authenticity, and it just becomes this whole pot, but half of it is actually more of a plan rather than actual tangible aspects. That's a way of going big that will actually harm the conversation. So I understand you have to go big, but in the end of the day, there are also different approaches to going big, and some of them would be preferred.
Kazbek, do you have a question to Blake?
Like 100 questions, but I have a privilege to ask Blake personally. Yeah. So yeah, Blake, and we are going to publish your deck. Yeah. So give us, confirm us this.
Sure.
Like opportunity, please. Yeah, and some comment and so on. Yeah. So
yeah.
Thanks a lot. So it's incredibly cool. Yeah. Blake.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, and thank you for being also patient with us for the Q&A, for the questions.
Mm-hmm. No, of course, it's a pleasure, and happy to be part of this, and thank you for putting it together. And have a great rest of the day. And I hope it was useful for our audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next step with you is a workshop, maybe with the startups, to have something more close to the startups, Kazbek.
We are launching the educational project, yes, with our self-bound tokens, as a map. Yeah, and Blake, you are number one to be invited.
Always looking for opportunities to support founders.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.